Hi guys, Posadas Pac-Man here, coming at you loud and proud with yet another Shonen Ronin analysis video. If you like this channel and want to support it, please click the like button and the subscribe button down below because that really does help us get our message across. And also please come over to my channel and subscribe to me and like my videos because I'm a hopeless narcissist, as I always say, and I love the little bit of self-validation I get when you click that big red button. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite shows of all time. And trust me, the writing team has delivered an absolute masterpiece, which I have edited and recorded for your listening pleasure. Nevertheless, I bid you welcome to Assassination Classroom. Let's go. Intelligence is the most powerful thing, especially when it's used to accumulate wisdom over time, rather than just solving problems in the moment. Such is the joy of teaching, that this very wisdom that we have created can be passed on to the next generation and build up to be transferred to the generations after that. It's much like the skill or the quirk, whatever you want to call it, one for all in the My Hero Academia series, which is why I think Academia is just as important to that title as the My Hero part. To quote Pause and Select, the next generation grows by working in tandem with the previous generation. This is what gives humanity its strength. But there was a series that came before My Hero Academia that explored the concept of education through the shonen battle format and much more in depth, and it is as good, if not greater, and in my opinion it is, than My Hero Academia. I am of course talking about one of those most underrated gems, the show known as Assassination Classroom, otherwise known by the cultured as Ass Class. Now before we go into the meat of this show, can I just say, the bangers of openings that this series has is fucking amazing. And of course the animation and the character design. Now I know that we're going to go into a huge pile of philosophical stuff, but I wanted to put that out there as my own opinion because this is just amazing. Anyway, hopefully Cal, my colleague who runs the editing operation here at Shonen Ronin, will put in some lovely examples of this as we keep talking. But anyway, let's start off with the analysis, shall we? Back during the ancient, and I mean fucking ancient times of about 6 years ago, there was a video that spread around the net of a young man named Jeff Bliss, an absolute revolutionary comrade of a badass.
Just get up and teach them instead of handing them a freaking packet, yo. There's kids in here who don't learn like that. Bye. They need to learn face to face. You want kids to come in your class, you want them to get excited for this, you gotta come in here, you gotta make them excited. You want a kid to change and start doing better, you gotta touch his freaking heart. Can't expect a kid to change if all you do is just tell him.
You see, Jeff had a bit of an issue with his teacher. That issue being that she was lazy as fuck. And she was, by her own admission, only there for a paycheck. This exchange speaks to one of the most fundamental but often overlooked struggles of the human condition. And that is that we aren't certain about what education means and what it is, what it's for. Even collectively speaking, we have no idea how to define it. You would think that this would be obvious and simple, but if you know how Homo sapiens are, then you know they're not exactly capable when it comes to addressing this whole agency diabolic. So I want to look back at the origins of education to see where it comes from, and to help us begin to explore where it may be headed in the future. Well, thermonuclear revolution is where we're inevitably heading, guys, but that's my own policy agenda, but I'll get to that later. Moving on. We begin with the birth of writing. Not because it was the first time people taught or learned something, but because it was the beginning of history as we know it. So it's the oldest time we can go back to know exactly what people were thinking. Although I'm sure this issue probably stretches even further back, to be honest. Anyway, about 6,000 years ago, with the development of literacy, you will see that the first priority was record keeping, preserving of the immediate past for the immediate here and now. Say there was a young farmer, we'll call him Bob, the most stereotypical English name ever, which almost no one has for an ancient Sumerian, but anyway. Bob comes into the palace with 20 barrels of wheat, and to be honest, I don't know where he got the technology to build barrels. I'm pretty sure they would just use boxes or bundles in a wagon or something, but anyway, getting past that. But anyway, the elites need to know how much a barrel is, and they need to know how much stuff they actually have. But they need to keep record of how many barrels they have, so they need to get a scribe. This scribe comes in. Let's call her Sarah. Never mind that it was probably impossible that a woman would be holding any form of educated position in ancient Sumeria, but we're all about gender equality here at Shonen Ronin. And so, Sarah takes note of the 20 barrels, and Bob can now be on his way, happy in the knowledge of a job well done. The next day, Sarah, who is a clever girl, realizes that if she's now the only one who can read, she has some real fucking power. This is, of course, by the way, why women weren't taught to read in most ancient cultures. But anyway, moving on. Bob comes into the palace again, ready to beg the king for forgiveness since he won't have enough wheat to pay his taxes. He realizes Sarah, who has no love for the elites either since they're all sitting around doing nothing, tells Bob not to worry and that she'll take care of it in exchange for a future favor. And thus, political corruption is born. I love how we go for the whole progressive angle and then turn around and wrench the knife in. Sarah is the birth of political corruption. Boo! Okay, probably not the greatest example. Moving on. And so, a 6,000-year-long battle between elites and everyone else begins. My kind of party, if you ask me. Who gets educated? What type of education do they get? What is education for? In Sumeria, the elites fought back with eunuchs, but now the eunuchs have influence, and not unlike Varys from Game of Thrones, they become the masters of whispers. They become the ones who write the laws and the letters. This role of the literate as the interpreters who make the rules takes place all the way through history, up to the Napoleonic era with pieces of shit like Talleyrand, or of course in the Persian culture in the Ottoman Empire, like the viziers, Jafar and Aladdin to use a modern example. They weren't nobles, but they were well educated and thus extremely powerful, and as such were used to curb the power of the aristocracy. The church and priests in the Christian realm served as a similar function in addition to their powers over the spiritual realm of society. This was all nothing less than an educational arms race. Those who could get their guy educated first would put them in a position to not only have a better material life, but to enact their will. But this of course obfuscates a big aspect of what writing and education does to people. It makes them more creative and instills a desire to self-express. This comes in conflict with the exact attitude that they are trying to create, that the elites are trying to create. We're going to give you the skills we want you to have, so you'll do what we want you to do. They may have paid for your education, they may have even birthed you with a specific purpose in mind, but sorry, you went and wrote some epic poetry instead. Or maybe they went and started some freaking cult that turns into a major religion. Or maybe the person retires to the countryside to write Taoist or Epicurean philosophy all day. Or fucking hell, God forbid they write pulp or fan fiction, to use a more modern example. This is the tension and the inherent problem elites have with educating people. The fear that they'll use their knowledge to do the wrong thing. Or, in other words, the opposite of what they want. Although, to be fair, it's exactly like those, it's exactly like the fucking right-wing morons say, the liberals are infiltrating our schools. Damn right we are. But we're not liberals, we're communists. And we're coming for ya. It's clear to me that all of Assassination Classroom, but the first part especially, is about this debate between Chairman Asano's indoctrination versus Koro-sensei's education. Many of the antagonists of the series have an obsession with perfecting their own methodology of teaching or education. In addition to the guy who raised Daytona, you have a much more down-to-earth and arguably more frightening example in Hiromi Shiota, that being Nagisa's abusive mother. While she is a minor character, she shows just how real and personal such struggles are for all of our characters, and in turn it lets us not only feel empathy, but also see it's not just the supervillains of the world, but often our very own family, who have nothing to lose but their pride, that help perpetuate dangerous and exploitative cultures. You're not good enough is the foundation indoctrination and every society that inevitably destroys itself. Chairman Asano embodies the idea of the importance of maintaining the status quo and the results it brings. In the past, he had believed in the more Confucian attitude towards teaching, which regards the growing inherent good inside people as the most important thing. As if people were raised well, the result can only be good. The problem came when some of those good people he raised died to the evil of bullies and by proxy the modern world. The chairman, of course, had a reactionary response, believing the problem was that he failed by not raising the kids to be strong instead of good. He became a man that only cared about fashioning students as products with a certain end goal in mind, rather than people. Through this way, he wouldn't have to take on the pain in his mind, the responsibility in his mind of what happens to his students. I'm just preparing them for the world as it is. If they die, it's simply because they weren't strong enough. It's not my fault, it's theirs. That mindset needs to be killed. The absolute genius of Assassination Classroom in my eyes, and the eyes of everyone here at Shonen Ronin, is showing the absolute absurdity of indoctrination through its very premise. The best way to change somebody's frame of mind is through comedy, as it slips past our natural defenses. The idea of shaping a bunch of children into assassins sounds horrific out of context, but when you make the target an unkillable super being, who also happens to have the children's best interests at heart, you not only ease the tension of such an idea, but also show the absurdity of trying to mold children for a specific profession for your own sake. Through the contrast of seeing a society trying to train children to kill someone who genuinely cares for them, while that person's a goofy octopus with a painted-on smile who loves big boobs and is constantly moving as a target, we are first to learn the value of questioning assumptions, predicting the future with the knowledge we have on hand, and the importance of learning history, so as to not fall for the elite's narrative. We learn right along with the characters, because that in of itself is the power of this story. A power that has its roots in the education and self-expression of an author who chose the path he most enjoyed in life. In case it hasn't become clear, education is in a bit of a crisis around the world, as the Prussian model of education only seems to either kill people, as in East Asia's case, or produces a gaggle of idiot citizens and teachers who are only there for the paycheck, as in the Western case. Assassination Classroom has an answer, but to understand it, we're going to have to compare and contrast the different educational systems throughout the years. Ancient Greece was one of the first where, due to the structure of their government, you didn't just have scribes, but rather there was a grab bag attempt to educate everyone. Because in a direct democracy where any landowning male could potentially become ruler, you would want all of them to be at least decently educated. Tutor people to be the best, wise, most civil versions of themselves, and good shall prosper. This was, as Cicero later referred to it, cunt though he is, the humanist education. Another time you had to push for mass education of a population was during the Protestant Reformation, due to the fact that the printing press allowed everyone to be able to read the Bible for themselves. Some of the early settlers to the United States were Puritans who brought this belief in education with them. So we can see that religion and education have long been intertwined, but this creates a problem of education and obedience to authority becoming intertwined also, bringing us back to the tensions between the elites and the individual. Only now the elites are in fact the indoctrinated masses themselves, which in turn helps affect our political system to prefer representative governments. East Asia, for its parts, seems to be going back to the classical Confucian model, which was always tied to obedience towards authority despite some of its more progressive elements. Standardization, mandatory, memory-based are the phrases that best describe education today. Is this enough? And more importantly, is this right? Everyone in the Assassination Classroom had their own reason for being there, as well as their own strengths and weaknesses. It started out as just a means for many to gain money, or give them something to do, or otherwise achieve some unrelated goal they had due to outside pressure and influence, and not learning for its own sake. Or it's because they wanted to do it. This is what made the civil war between the kill versus save side so thematically important. Is having a personalized Aristotle enough? Can we really continue on the same path when cute AI like Ritsu exist? It all comes down back to that all-important second principle of the shonen aesthetic, to impart both a mentality of gratitude and respect towards the ideas of your predecessors, and after respect is established, to instill a fire to forge your own path. Those who can't harbour a second blade aren't qualified to be assassins. Each assassin has a different style, but they all carry that initial blade of gratitude and that second blade of ambition. A teacher uses their wisdom and helps you find your target and gives you the tools to go after it with all you've got, but the choice to pull the trigger is always yours. A teacher prepared to die and a student prepared to kill. A shonen battle education like that is the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Please click the like button and the subscribe button down below for more Shonen Ronin videos. And of course, come subscribe to my channel as well, because hey, I bring out anime content as well, just not as often as these guys. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Posadas Pac-Man. This has been the writing of the lovely fellows here at Shonen Ronin, the lovely editing of Calliope, the lovely writing style of Hunter x Hunter Dick Writing Association. I bid you a good day, a good night, and a good morning, wherever you are. Peace!